everyone, welcome back. So we're going to continue talking about equivalent fractions in this video, and mainly around the idea of scaling. Probably you heard this word in your class, right? Scaling up, scaling down. We're going to talk about what those two mean with this brief example. So it says find an equivalent fraction for 4/8. So that means find other fractions that are 4/8. So here would be 4/8, right? So 4/8. Let's see, 4/8, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now 4/8, we already discussed in the previous videos how you can find other equivalent fractions if you just scale up, if you just multiply, right? So 4/8, you can find a new equivalent fraction if you just multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same number. So in this case, you can pick any number, right? If we pick, for example, 5. I like 5, pretty simple number. So 4 times 5 will give us 20, and that will give us 40. So 20 out of 40, or 20/40, is an equivalent fraction to 4/8. Let's go with another fraction, right? So we start off with the given fraction, 4/8. Let's find another equivalent fraction. Again, multiply by any number that you want. Let's go with, I don't know, 7. So that would be 7 times 4 is 28. And this would be 56. So 28/56 is an equivalent fraction. Notice that in these we are multiplying, again, numerator and denominator by the same number. Do one more, 4/8. And we are going to multiply by, let's go this time a little bit easier, maybe times 3. Times 3. So that would be a 12, and that would be a 24. So that means all of these are equivalent, right? So 4/8 is equivalent to 4/8 is equivalent to 20/40, and it's equivalent to 28/40, 28/56, and 12/24. But notice that 4/8, right? If you look at the visual model, it also looks like it's 1/2. So that means we can actually go downward. We can scale down. That means we can make our numbers look smaller. This is also called simplifying, and we'll talk about that later on. But the same way that you can multiply an entire fraction by a number, if you can divide it, that's another way to find equivalent fractions. So for example, let's say we have 4/8, right? Now, I know of a number that can divide both of these. That would be 2, correct? Right, remember, I have to divide them evenly so that there is no remainder. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So that means that 2/4 is also an equivalent fraction. And if we actually did draw it out, right, 2/4, that would be the same as this one. So 2/4 is an equivalent fraction. But I can find another equivalent fraction, right? So 4/8, I can divide both the numerator and the denominator by 4 without getting a remainder, and then that would give me 1 and 2, 1/2, right? And obviously this is the same as 1/2. So you can also find equivalent fractions by scaling down, right? So by dividing. Multiplying is scaling up, dividing is scaling down. As long as you multiply by the same number, the numerator and the denominator, you get an equivalent fraction. Same thing, if you divide the numerator and the denominator by the same number, you get an equivalent fraction. If you look closely here, we divided by 2 and by 2, numerator and denominator, so we got a new fraction. Here we divided by 4 and by 4, and we got an equivalent fraction. Let's do another quick example. Yeah, I like to keep these videos short, like maybe 5 minutes. But I think I've been running over a little bit. So let's say I want to find equivalent fractions for 20/30. Now I know I can multiply, right, and get a new fraction, which would give me, like, if I multiply by 2, I would get 40, and I multiply by 2, I would get 60. But I can also take 20/30 and divide that by a common factor. I could divide both of these by 10, right? If I divide these by 10, I would get 2 and 3, so that would be an equivalent fraction. I can also multiply 20 over 30 by 5. If I divide those by 5, again, it has to be numerator and denominator, I will get 4 over 6. So that's an equivalent fraction. So long as you multiply by the same number or you divide by the same number, right, without getting a remainder, you will get an equivalent fraction. They're called scaling up and scaling down. And we'll see more of this later on, like especially scaling down. Like how do you know how many times you can scale down? And it's called simplifying. And we'll talk about simplifying in the next video. So I hope this helps.